Okay, we're up to Daf Mem Aleph, and we're in the middle of discussing the pasuk, the Asa Lapar Kasha Asa Laparachatas, Ken Yasalo, V'chiparlim, Hakoin V'nisachlo. So let's make a quick chazara of what we've seen until now, and we'll use a chart to go ahead and do it. Okay, we have three parashas. We have the parasha of Kohen Mashiach, then we have the parasha of Meshuach Muhammad, then we have the parasha of the Ser of the Nasi. The Brisa says, Rosh Kasha Asa, that's by the Par Helam Dover. What does that mean? That just like it's doubled up, that the Zion Hazois by the Koy Mashiach, if you don't do them, it's Ma'akev. Why? Because it's doubled up, it's repeated in the Parsha of a Par Helam Dover. The Pasuk then says Lapar, and that we say the Lashon of Par the Yom Kippurim. The other day we asked, what halacha of Yom Kippur can we learn out that we didn't learn out? Lashon of S, if you have a blister on your right hand, it's okay. Tefillah, you have to be toivel and not go ahead and rub blood from the side of the kli. And dam, you have to have the share of the dam. That's what we learned for Yom Kippur. Lepar, the Kohen Mashiach to tell me it's ma'akev because it's only said once. So therefore it's tell me that the Zion are ma'akev. Chatos, the word chatos, that's a sira by this kechavim, the third parsha, has the same halach of Helam Davar, that the Zion will be ma'akiv, and Ken Yoseh, that it's repeated, the Dalid Matanis, that the Dalid, then they're ma'akiv, that the four Matanis on the Oren, the Mizbeach, on the, not the Oren, on the Mizbeach HaPnimi, on the golden Mizbeach, also, not only the Zion Matanis, Lefnei the Paroiches, but even the four Matanis on the Oren HaKodesh will be ma'ak, and I keep on saying the Oren, excuse me, on the Mizbeach HaZav will be ma'akiv. Rabbi says Darshan's Vasar Kashas are the same. He adds that for the par for Yom Kippur, you go ahead and learn out Matanas on ma'akiv. We saw Rabbi Shmuel, right? Rabbi Shmuel said, interesting enough, Par Helam Dover. It's written the Par Helam Dover in the Parsha of Par Helam Dover. V'yasakash also the par is written in the Parsha Par Helam Dover. So the Gemara is going to ask, if it's written in the Parsha Par Helam Dover, what's Rabbi Shmuel telling me lepar? He learns the Kal V'chomer to teach me Yom Kippur. That's ma'akiv. So therefore, he doesn't need this limud of lepar that Yom Kippur is ma'akiv. So he uses it for Helam Dover. And as we're going to see today, B'ez Hashem, the Shita, and then we'll refer back to the chart as to the Shita of what? Of Rabbi Shmuel. So that's exactly where we're holding. So we're beginning on Mem Aleph Amid Aleph. We're beginning on Mem Aleph Amid Aleph. We're a few lines down. It says, the par, Zepar Helam David Shel Tzibor. Fred Gemara of Betziva Gufa Ksiv. That is the part of Asa Kasha Asa speaking in the parsha of Par Helam Dava. So what do you mean? You tell me it's Par Helam Dava. That is Lepar. Dasidos. You're speaking in that parsha, so you don't have to tell me Lepar means Helam Dava. It must be something else. It says no. Amra Papa Misham the boy Agmure. We want to learn from Par Helam Dava Shel Tzibor B'Yaseres Hakaved and the Shtei Kloyes, the diaphragm and the two kidneys to Seir Mavaydis Kechavim. In other words, by the Sira by the Zara in the Bamidbar Tesvav, it's ambiguous. You don't know exactly what to bring in terms of the Imurim. The Imurim, it says by Par Helam Davar, it says, it doesn't actually say it, but we learn that from a Hekesh, from Par Kar Mashiach, that what? That the Shtei Kloyos and the Yeseres HaKaved are brought on the Mizbeach. So now, we have a rule in Shas, that we're going to see later on in Beis Shammai, that ain't davar halom mehekesh, ain't choisem alam mehekesh. So if it says Yeseres HaKaved Mashiach, and I'm learning out Helam Dava from there, that's one hekesh, I won't be able to learn out Avodah Zara, the Seir Avodah Zara from Helam Davar, because that itself is a hekesh. By saying the word par in the parsha of Helam Davar, it's as if the parsha of Yeseres HaKaved and Shtei Kloyos was written in that parsha. The mele, it's only one hekesh, and I can learn out to the Seir Avodah Zara that you would bring that communal Avodah Zara carbon. You learn that Yeseres HaKaved and Shtei Kloyos. Says the Gemara, Amar Papa, Mishin the boy Agmure, Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur B'Yaseres Shtei Kloyos the Seir Avodah Kechavim. And therefore, after that limud, Par Helam Davar Shel Tzibur B'Gufa Like Siv. It doesn't say in Helam Dava Yeseres HaKaved Shtei Kloyos. Ela behekesh asa. Learn some hekesh what from Kohen Mashiach. Memela, I would not be able to learn out from Helam Dava to Servoidus Kechavim. So it's the Lepar You need the word par in the parsha of Helam Dover to say as if it's written geschriben Yeseres Hakaved Kloyos in the parsha of Helam Dover. Command ksiv be megufei for the havi dover love mehekesh v'choisem lama mehekesh. It won't be something that you learn from mehekesh v'choisem lama mehekesh, and that's what now we have an explanation of the chart over here. Par Helam Dover according to lehekesh lepar kaim Mashiach le'inyin Yeseres Hakaved u'shtei Kloyos. We want to go ahead and establish that hekesh, that now this will be, we'll learn it out to what? Once it's considered as one. It's considered as one. Again, I don't know if this chart is so clear because it's saying that it creates the hekesh. And then really it means as if it's written openly over here. And then I can learn it out to avoid the Zara. If I can learn it out to avoid the Zara, and it's not a dover love made hekesh. Tiny Kavasi Dra Papa, that it's said by Helam Dover that the par is by Helam Dover. But also, it says, you should do to the par Helam Dover like you did to Kohen Mashiach. Ma tamud loy, ma lepar. Why do you have to write the word par? Vishnema v'hei view es karbanim ishal Hashem in the parsha of Sira Avodah in Tesvav in Bamidbar. In that parsha, it says in Chafei, it says the keeper hakayin al kol das bnei Yisrael v'nislach lehem kishagagam hu v'hei view es karbanim ishal Hashem v'chatasam pnei Hashem shigagasam. Right. So Chatasam elusir avodas kechavim. Shigagasam ze par Helam Dover. So now you created the relationship between the Helam Dover and the what and the Sarah avodas kechavim. Chatasam shel avodas amatayra. Chatasam harihikish gasam. The Sarah avodas zara is like the par Helam Dover. Shigagasam mehechem lamarata. Where do you learn shigagasam the par Helam Dover? Loi be'akesha. We learn now from a hekesh from Kohen Mashiach. Chidaber halami behekesh chayzim lami behekesh. Therefore, it has this lapar. It's a par Helam Dover shel tzibur, and therefore it's if it's written openly in there. And the lapar is a par Kohen Mashiach to make the hekesh to par Helam Dover, and that's the words of a papa. That lapar, you need to teach me Yeseres Hakaved shtei Kolyos b'sir of Yom Kippur par Helam Dover behekesh. Amamar chatasam elu sir avodas kechavim. Fegdumara tepikle mikra kama. We have the earlier pasuk. The earlier pasuk said v'asa. It says, "Keinyasel leparzeh." You say Yom Kippurim. But also leparzeh parkam Mashiach. Hachatos elu sira avodas kechavim. So in other words, in the parsha by Yikra Daled Chaf in Helam Dover, it says openly the word chatos, and that we're learning about the Zara. So why do we have to go ahead and chapsich to go ahead from Tesvav to sira avodas Zara to Helam Dover shkegasam chatosam? I could learn that directly over here in the parsha of the Helam Dover itself. We went ahead and we learned that within the parsha of Avodah Zarah, we made the hekesh between Helam Dover and the Sir Avodas Kechavim to create the Yeseres Hakaved and Shtei Kloyos. I could have learned it out from Vayikra Daled Pasuk Chaf in the Helam Dover itself, where it says Chatos and Midarshan. That means what? The Sir Avodah Zarah. So what's the difference? Amar Chatos and Elu Sir Avodas Kechavim. Typically Mikra Kama. Let's learn out from the first pasuk. Asa Kasha Asa. Damamar Chatos. The word Chatos in that pasuk is the Rabbi Sir Avodas Kechavim, and you have the hekesh to par Helam Dover itself. Rav Papa, you need the second pasuk, Chatosim Shkigasam. Salkadai Chamina, if you would have just said the first pasuk by Helam Dover and it says Chatos, I would have said Hani Mili, Rak Hazois, Gufa. Only the 7 Hazor that it says openly, and because there's no mention of Yeseres Hakaved at all in the Helam Dover as we saw. So I would have said I'd only le'inyan the limit of the Zion spritzing of the Pfanam Proikas. That I learn out from that pasuk. Avoy Amid Beis. Avoy Yeseres Hakaved. Ushtei Akloyos like Siva Begufe. A Maloi, I would say that there's no din Yeseres Hakaved. Or Shtei Kloyos by Sirach Avodah Zarah. Therefore, I need the pasuk Shigagasam Chatasam. That hekesh to teach me what? No Yeseres Hakaved and Shigagasam. Amalei Rav Huna Brei Rav Nasin Rav Papa Vatana Par Yom Kippurim L'chol Mash Amar Binyan Kamar. Rav Papa had learned the Par Yom Kippurim. He learned out the hekesh to teach me the halacha of es toval bedam, but not everything. But here we have a brisa that teaches everything, and Rav Papa is an amoira. So in other words, the hekesh Yom Kippurim to Helam Dover is to teach me everything, not just what those 3 halachas of es of the blister and dam. The shear of dam and tefillah of not misapig rubbing on the kli. And for the Gemara Tanohi, it's machlekes hanoyim. Tana de Rav Mar Bahachi, the Shiva of Rav, they only learned like Rav Papa did Es Tovel V'Dam. The Tana de Shmuel Le Mar Bahachi, they learned everything. So it's Machlekes Tanoim, what you learn out from the Hekesh Par Yom Kippur directly to Par Helen Dava. Tana de Shmuel. V'Iman Nemu Yiseres Ushtei Koloyos B'Par Koyin Mashiach. V'Nemru Par Helen Dava Shel Tzibur. Why, in fact, in other words, now we'll give you a little agata kind of. You could have said by both or by one, Yiseres Lekaved. You did say by one, but why did you choose to say it by the Koyin and not by the Helen Dover of the Tzibur? Why didn't you mention that? So Mashal Melech Basav Adam Shezoyim Aloyavai. Melech Basav Adam gets angry at his as constituents, the ones that he loves. Umiyat Bir Sechanai, and therefore because he loves him, he wants to go ahead and be mamayit in what they did wrong. Here we're speaking about Par Helen Davar Shel Tziba. We're speaking about a communal carbon that Klal Yisrael, based upon the Gemara and Harius, they went ahead and they acted upon a psak of Bezdin to go ahead and do a davar that Chayav Karis. So meaning that Tziba did an Aveira that's Chayav Karis. So instead of elaborating upon that, since HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us so much, it was memayit by not stating the halachas of the Yiseres HaKaved and the Shtei Kloyos. That kept by the individual, by the Kohen Mashiach. But he did go ahead and put it, because that would have been increasing more speaking about the Avera they did. So therefore we minimized it by keeping in by Kohen Mashiach and not putting by Helen Dover. Conversely, the Tanur Yishmael from Iman Nema Paroiches HaKodesh, the Par Kohen Mashiach, when it describes the sprinkling of the 7 spritzes of the par's blood, by the Kohen Mashiach it's Paroiches HaKodesh, and by the Helen Dover it just says Paroiches. V'leinima Par Helen Dover Shel Tzibur. It only says Paroiches. What's the reason over there? Mashal Melech Basav Adam Shesarcha Aleh Medina, that a Medina rebelled against him. So Imrach Miyuta Sarcha, if only a portion, a small portion of the Medina rebelled. So still, Pamalia Shaloi, right, will be Miskayemes. Those that are closest to the Banish Shloilam, those will be closest to the king in this mashal, right? Then the Chabur is Miskayim. However, in Muba Sarcha, if a majority of the Medina goes, then Ein Pamalia Shalom Miskayemes, then it won't be Miskayim. So over here we have all of the Pamalia Kaviyachal not there anymore. So therefore, the kedusha only remains where Hashem only remains by the individual, by the Kohen Mashiach. However, once the community didn't have Aveira, there's only a proich. It's not proich as a kodesh, because it's if the Pamalia had been gone ahead and been dissolved. Just for interesting, that English is a language that's made up of other languages. So I was thinking the word Pamalia, Pei Mem Lamed Yud, spells out family, because the Pamalia is those inner council that's closest to Hashem. So obviously family is this very close relationship, so maybe Pamalia is family. Okay, the Mishnah continued, and in discussing the avoida the matanos, so we said by chatzis chitzonius we paskin like Beis Hillel, one would do the job, and the carbon you get your kapar with that one. However, when it came to chatas panemius, you had to do all 4, and if you didn't do all 4, it would be ma'akif. If you didn't do 4, it would be ma'akif. So we're getting into a very lumdish sugya. It pays to go back as an introduction, I think, to see the lashon of the Mishnah with Rashi on Lamed Vav Amid Beis. So the din in the Mishnah is any carbon that's done on Mizbeach HaPnimi, the Yom Kippur Kabbanis or the Parhel of Dava, the Kohen Mashiach, the Sira Avodah Zara, she'im chiser achas me'amatanos, if you didn't do one, ki'ilu like keeper, it's like you didn't do any. Lefikach, nasan kula kitiknon, if you did all of them correctly, the achas shaloi kitiknon, and one incorrectly, psula ve'ein by karas. So here's the way I would teach it, literally. The Gemara might change it, but right now, this is the way I would teach it. Nasan kula kitiknon. I'm doing the 4 avodas panemius, and I did all of them correctly. I did it lishma. I did it without any machshav of chutz l'makam and chutz l'zman. The achas shaloi kitikna, and one I didn't do correctly. In one of the sinas hadam of the 4, I had in mind chutz l'makam and chutz l'zman. Then psula, the carbon's no good. However, ve'ein by kares. If it would be what machshav of chutz l'zman, it would not shaft piggle in the piece of meat that a person would eat it. You'd be chayav kares. Tells Rashi why. Let's see Rashi in the Mishnah. Lefikach. Since each one is a matter, because again, one without the other is nothing, Ein zu materes beloizu, the ein zum fageles beloizu. So therefore, one can't be matter with the other one, and one cannot be mafagel unless you had the machshav of pigel in the other one. The nasim kula kitiknon bishtika. If you put all of them correctly, silently, without any machshava, the acha shaloi kitikna. What is the one shaloi kitikna? For example, going shenasta the machshavas chutz them kormei chutz this man. Puzzle. It will be puzzle. Shlei nita berishayna, because shlei nita berishayna vein bakaris. Shlei nita berishayna. The reason it's puzzle is because you didn't have a heta. You didn't do all of them correctly. The last one won't be mefagel. Why? The ksava ain't mefaglim bechatzi matter. There's no din of pigel in chatzi matter. We have, in other words, when you go ahead and bring a chatas chitzonius, since one of them, if you do one and not any other three, the carbon now, you could go ahead and burn the emurim and eat the meat. Why? Because one of them mattered that, allowed that. Memele, if I have machshava pigel in one, it's considered mefagel b'kol hamater. Masha'en came by the chatas penimius. Each one of the four is a matter b'fliatzmai, because one without the other doesn't work. Memele, if I do three correctly and one incorrectly, right, it's only considered part of the matter. And this Tana of the Mishnah holds a mefaglin b'chatzi hamater. Memele, there's no pigel. With that introduction, let's begin the Gemara. Says the Gemara. On Mem Aleph, Amid Beis. Amalei Rav Huna Breder of Nasan, Rav Papa. But we did that already. No, Tanai Haki Tana. Excuse me. I'm sorry, I got a little lost. In the middle, Lefikach. In Nasan Kula Ketikna and one Shaloi Ketikna, Psula, because it never mattered it. However, Vein by Chorus, because Ein Mefagim Mechatzi Matter, that's the way Rashi learned Pshat in the Mishnah. Tanan Hasam, right? Tanan Hasam. In Zevachim, there are four avoidus, Adam. There's the Shchita, the Kabbalah, the Hilacha, and Tzurika. By the Kor Mincha, there's four avoidus in the flour. There's the Kemitza, there's the Nesinas Bekli, there is the Hilacha, the Mizbeach, and then there's the Haktara. Those four avoidus of the Mincha parallel the four avoidus Adam. So the Kemitza is connected to Shchita, the Nesina in the Klisharis is connected the Kabbalah, the Hilacha is Hilacha, and the Haktara is the Zrika. And just like in a Chatas Chitzonius or any carbon Chitzonius, it's Shaykh Pigel in one of the four Matirim, who had din in one of the four Avodas, who had din in Yewat the Mincha. Says the Gemara, Tanan Hasan, Pigel b'Kaimitz, you had a Machshava Pigel in the Kaimitz, v'loi b'Levoina. Now, there's two Matirim to a carbon Mincha. There's the burning of the Kaimitz, and there's the burning of the Levoina. So I had the Machshava Pigel in the Kaimitz, but not in the Levoina. Or the Levoina had machshava of pigel in the Levoina, the burning of the frankincense, the loy b'kaimitz. Reb Meir oime pigel v'chayv malav karis. So Pashtus Reb Meir says that you be pigel chayv karis because Reb Meir holds what mefaglim b'chatzi mater. Because regarding the mincha, you have two things. You have the kemitza and you have the Levoina, the kaimitz and Levoina, and each one is mater, the burning. So in Meir, I would say, if you do one and not the other, it's not a good pigel because it's an ain't pigel chatzi mater. So when the Meir says there is pigel, it must be he holds ain't yesh pigel b'chatzi mater. Well, wait a second. The Chachamim ain't b'karis at sheyifaga b'chol mater. The Chacham say it's no pigel until you mefagel whole mater. Rav Shimon ben Lakish, loy tema, don't say like you thought. Taima the Meir the ksava mefagel b'chatzi mater, and therefore it would create pigel. Ela hacham ayaskin and shenasin es hakaimitz b'machshava. He had machshava pigel in the kaimitz, and the Levoina comes afterwards. Levoina b'shtika, and he didn't say anything in the Levoina. Kasavar Reb Meir kol oisa, anyone who continues to do al das rishayna hu oisa is doing on his das rishayna. Now, what does that mean? He had a machshava of pigel in the burning of the kaimitz. He burnt the Levoina and he was quiet. It's not pshat Reb Meir holds it's pigel because you mefagel b'chatzi mater. It's because we hold the shtika or the act that he did in the Levina was a continuation of the machshav of pigel of the kaimitz. So hastus, if he would go ahead and have machshav, no machshav in the kaimitz, then a machshav of pigel levina, it would not be pigel. Why? Because machshav rishayna was fine. It says the Gemara, Mimai. How do you know that the reason of Rabbi Reish Lakish knows that Reb Meir is because Kala Oisa al Das Rishayna Oisa Midiktani Lefikach, our Mishnah, in Nasan Kulon Kitiknon, if you did all of them correctly, the Acha Shaloi Kitikna, and one incorrectly, Pasol Vein Bakaris. Mashma, because you did the first ones correctly. That's why there's no karis. Ha'acha Shaloi Kitikna, but let's say you did the first one incorrectly, meaning you had machshava of pigel, the kulon kitikna and all the rest you did with shtika, pigel, it would be pigel. That's the diak. The reason why it was not pigel is because you did all the ones correctly and one incorrectly. Switch the order around, it would be pigel. Now, money. There's no way it could be the chachamim. The chachamim need, and by the chatas penimius, you would need a machshav of pigel in all four nisinas dam. So it cannot be the chachamim. Ela must be Reb Meir. Now it must be Reb Meir. And therefore Reb Meir says what? That there's no pigel. It means no pigel. Why? Because first machshava was good. The time of Reb Meir mishum nemefagel mechatzi mata, afilu kidiktani nami. Right? Even the way we learned it, there should be pigel. Why? Because as long as you had machshava pigel in one of the matirim, it should be pigel. So despite the fact the earlier one was okay, and only in the last one you had machshava pigel, if the svar of a Meir was that mefagel mechatzi mater, it should be pigel, and the Mishnah says it's not. So it must be the reason it's not pigel in the Mishnah is because the first one was the machshava of shtika, and only the last one was what? Was shaloi kitikna. And again, Reish Lakish teaches in the Mishnah, kitikna means b'shtika, and shaloi b'tikna means pigel. So what's the reason? It must be the ksava koloisal das rishana oisa. So therefore, that's the svar of Reish Lakish. Amar Rabbi Shmuel bar Yitzchak to Reish Lakish. La'olam rabbanan he. La'olam, the Mishnah is the rabbanan. The rabbanan hold ain't pigel v'chatzi mater. So what's the chiddush over here? Well, my kitikna, when it says kitikna, it doesn't mean like the shtika. Kitikna means the pigel. So in other words, they read the Mishnah, lefikach, therefore, in nasnan kulam bepigel, and in one machshava without pigel, therefore it's possible vein bakaris, because you didn't have pigel across the board. So kitikna means pigel, shaloi kitikna means what? Shaloi kitikna means not pigel. It's a little funny. But mediktani lefikach, in nasnan kulam kitikna, decha shaloi kitikna, possible vein bakaris, the Lashon's mashma, the first one was the correct Lashon, and the other ones were incorrect. The way you, Rav Shmuel Yitzchak, are learning, it's the first one that's incorrect, and the other ones are correct. Pigel is mashma, Ketikna, you did it right, and then you did three not right. According to you, Rav Shmuel Yitzchak, you did wrong, and then you did three right. So that's not the Lashon of the Mishnah. Amarava, my shaloi Ketikna, you know what shaloi Ketikna means? Chutz lim kaima. Shaloi Ketikna means chutz lim kaima. So you did the first one, the machshava of what? Of pigel. And then you had the machshava of chutz lim kaima, pasal bein makaris. Why? Because you had machshava of shaloi across the board. So you had a machshava of pigel chutz lim makim, chutz lim makim. Shaloi kitiknu is machshava of chutz lim lizmanoi, right? And we know that if you match those two, it's possible, but aim by karis. But so the mission is the chachamim, and in achinami Reb Meir could hold aim mefagim b'chatzi mater, and you have no raya that kol oisa das rishayna hu oisa. That is the opinion of Rava. Rav Ashi Amar, when it says kitikna, it means shaloi lishma, and where shaloi kitikna, it can have machshav of pigel. But since you had machshav of shaloi lishma, it doesn't work. Mechal dechi loy avidlei chutzim kaimoi u'shaloi lishma mechayev. It's mashma that what? That if you would have gone ahead and not have that machshava of chutzim kaimoi chutz lishma, right? You would say that what? You would say. So the reason why it would be possible in Makaris is because you had the machshava of shaloi lishma chutzim kaimoi. What happens if you did it b'shtika and then you had a machshava of chutz lizmanoi? Mashma, then you would be chayiv pigel. Now it can't be the chachamim because you weren't mefagel. You only mefagel b'chatzi mater. So it must be Reb Meir who holds kol oisa al machshava rishona oisa. I guess we touch out machshava rishona of shtika as if it's what? If it's a machshava of pigel. So therefore you can't say this mission is a chachamim. And for the Gemara, no. I did Tani Reisha pigel v'chayim love karis. Since you learned in the Reisha pigel v'chayim love karis, so Tananami Seifa pasal lein by karis. In other words, even if you had shtika in the beginning, it wouldn't be chayiv. Even if you had shtika, it would never be chayiv karis. The only reason you learn this lashon is to go ahead and be consistent with the lashon of the Reisha.